Let's see how this turned out. I'm trying a new camera angle with my camera stand. Tape out of the way, go over there. Okay, so there's our yellow line. We're sewing the steeking, which I believe is a actually means, I think it's from the word staking, as in to fasten in place, to stake it down. That's pure speculation on my part. But it has two purposes. It's important, we shouldn't neglect it. It has two purposes, and one of them is to, sorry, let me just finish this. One of them is to put a reinforcing seam along the bottom of the fell, because that's the bottom of the sewn portion of the pleats, the fell. We need a heavy reinforcement along here to give that a little extra support. And the other function is by precisely lining it up here, it'll be lined down on the bottom, because if it wasn't, we would get, the pleats would fall, and this is a bit exaggerated, but you'd get something like this effect. You'd get the sawtooth effect along the bottom, and we don't want that. Okay, so there's my thread, where's my needle? You're not it. There you go. And this day's just flying past. I gotta take fewer breaks. I gotta get more done. Here we are. Let's get that double knot. Okay, I muffed the knot. Let me do that again. Okay, there we go. Usual shorten it. So there's two things. We have to start bottom of the kilt facing away from us. We have to start on the left-hand side, because we can't start from the other end, because we're going to be sewing into the pleat past, we're going to be sewing past this point. We're going to be sewing an inch or so past it. So, and we don't want to sew it so the cloth pulls that way, because then you'll wind up with a bump here, which you won't be able to get rid of by shrinking. And we don't want it to pucker in this direction either. We want it to be flat. So what I do is I pull it flat, and my edge of my right palm is at the second seam, and I just sort of smooth it down. Now I'm going to start by doing my usual back stitch, and I only really have to do one single back stitch here. It doesn't, I have no evidence to show that it needs more than that. Okay, we pull it flat again, smooth it down again. Now I did a back stitch in the first pleat, and now I'm going to do stitch, stitch. Looks good. Let's do it a third time. Stitch, and I hope my hand isn't covering this in the picture. And I'm doing a back stitch along my line. So let's say that the stitch is 1/2 inch. I'm going back 1/4 inch with every back stitch, because this is a strong seam. It's interesting, when I look back at old kilts that I'd restored in the past, and even some newer ones, they would often use a very, very heavy, like a carpet thread here, which I think is totally unnecessary. I get by just fine with the same weight of thread I'm using on the front of the kilt, the outside seams. Okay, pull it flat, push it down, catch the bottom, or sort of catch the edge, one back stitch. The purpose of this back stitch, because we've got a long stretch of thread right there, which is going from that stitch over a couple of 2 inches or so. a couple inches, inch and a half. So by putting this back stitch, it kind of locks the thread, because otherwise it would, I think it would pull. Okay. And 1 and 2, and we carry on. And what the heck, I'm just going to do this whole wretched thing in real time. Back stitch. Now, I'm going a couple of pleats widths, but I'm not going so far as to stitch through to the outside of the cloth. I have seen that on kilts that were made in the past, and it's not a good look when you've got a heavy seam visible from the outside. Now, do I have enough thread left to do one more? Looks like it. Okay. 1, 2, that's about as much thread. I can't really accomplish another seam, so I back stitch it once. Just put my needle there, I won't lose it. I grab another ½ fathom or so of thread. Okay. Up. Where'd you go? Okay, so there's the back stitch. There's the tail end of this length of thread. So I'm going to come in at an angle, and then I'm going to tie off the previous one. So 1, 2, it's tangling a bit here. 3. I'm going to cut off that tail. And I carry on. Find the fold at the edge of the seam, and you should see when you're doing this, when you pleat into the stripe, you're going to notice that the pleats looking from the inside are going to be pretty much uniform. They're not going to be, possibly not as uniform as they appear on the outside, because there will be those little minute differences. And that's a sign right there. If you're sewing this and one of them is markedly different. That one's a bit narrower, but I don't see any error there, so I'm going to carry on. And I'm going through several layers of cloth here with my needle. I'm careful not to go to the outside. I'm going to try something here. Let's see if I can move this so that you're looking down over my right shoulder. And I'll see if I can change the focus too. So this, see if I can do this without dropping the camera. Yeah, okay, come on. What do we got here? Right, okay. No. Nope, I can't seem to be able to change the magnification. Let me just alter this a little bit. There we go. See what happens if I pause it. Perhaps I pause, I can change the magnification. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. You know what I will do? I'm going to stop this video, then adjust the magnification, then start it again.